Good morning, everyone, and welcome to NJEDA, Resources for Small Businesses and Startups. I'm Vinny Civitello, Communications Manager for the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. With us today from the NJEDA are Christina Fuentes and Tim Rollender. A few housekeeping matters before we get started. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be emailed to you tomorrow along with the PowerPoint for today's presentation, so be on the lookout for those. If you just can't wait, you can download them right now from the Handouts tab, but I'd also like to draw your attention to the Questions tab. Christina and Tim would be happy to take all of your questions, so don't hesitate to write them in as they come to you, and I can't stress that enough. Write them in as they come to you, or you may forget what you wanted to ask by the time we get to the Q&A. I think we will be taking a quick break in the middle to do Christina questions before we get to Tim, but please just write them in anyway. So now let's get things started. Christina?
Okay, thank you. So I'm Christina Fuentes. I'm Director of Small Business Services at the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Part of Governor Murphy's new initiative is to really help focus on small businesses. So they created this new department called Small Business Services at EDA, and that's what I'm heading up. Traditionally, we've always supported small businesses, and as you can see in the past year, this is just from January to August, we supported 93 businesses with 54 million, and that was leveraged by 141 million, which equated to 545 new jobs that, as a result, into the state. Part of what the Small Business Services is doing is we're here to really help entrepreneurs and small businesses, and we're focusing more on targeted communities. We're doing heavy outreach. We've joined targeted chambers like our Hispanic statewide chamber, the African American chamber as well, and we're really just trying to be able to bring and facilitate the resources that are available throughout the state to these entities. We're also engaged in getting the feedback too, as far as like what other resources could be available. We've taken this Garden State Growth Zone model and we've expanded it out to 8 additional focus cities. And as you can see, we're focused in Bridgeton, Millville, Vineland, Salem, Mount Holly, Plainfield, Phillipsburg, and Jersey City as well. And we work closely with those cities so they can understand the resources that are available to them on other, state entities like DCA or the Main Street programs. And we just want to try to help the economic development. Part of our team is myself, and then we also have Ken Hart, who has an extensive banking background, and he really represents North Jersey at this time. Then we have Anthony Martinez, who represents South Jersey, and he actually came from a small business development center, so he's pretty keen on the technical assistance of helping true small business owners and entrepreneurs. Some of the additional resources that we have to help grow your business would be low-cost financing that we offer internally as well, but we also offer a small business lease assistance program. That's a new grant that we put out there back in April that's available to 13 cities, and I'll get more in detail on a different slide, but it's really an incentive to help attract leases into downtown areas in those 13 cities. We also have industry-specific programs, and then we also do offer technical assistance for if you're looking to start up a business or if you're looking to just basically grow your business. What are some additional ways that you can tap into available resources? We utilize right now UC EDC that helps with that, and potentially we'll be, at the end of the year, we're going out for a new contract for that as well too. So we'll be expanding that. We also utilize and partner up with the the Business Action Center, and they have their business portal as well, but they're really an advocacy group that can help you if you have permitting issues or making sure you're registered properly as well. These are additional community development financial institutions that are really geographically based. So depending on where you are located, you can utilize these as resources. And what our department does is we help connect you to these resources. They offer their own typical lending products as well, which are geared towards micro and small business owners. And they also offer technical assistance too. So again, depending on where you're located, you can reach out to one of our partners, and what we do is we actually help connect you to them, and we do the follow-up, so that way we can ensure someone is reaching back out to you. So part of what we did was we took those CDFIs and we created access to capital for them. So recently we approved that each CDFI can come in and get 1.5 million to create small business loan products for small business owners. And so the CDFIs can apply for that. It's called the Loan to Lender program. And we're currently taking applications now. And then once we get those products in and approved, we'll help market them out to small business owners so they can know what's available to them. We also allowed them to compete as pretty similar to our premier lenders. They're able to participate as well through this program, and they basically would work with applicants that would process an application to us, and it would be for a loan up to $500,000 for a participation, a guarantee, or a line of credit, which could be used towards any kind of fixed assets or working capital. As I said, we have a small business lease assistance program, and this reimburses the leasee 15% of their lease payments for 2 years on a 5-year lease. So essentially, the leasee would want to, find space that's located in one of these 13 cities. The cities designated their areas that, what they wanted to support, and typically they're all UEZs, so it's the whole UEZ area. Once you find a space, and you would submit an application, and you just want to make sure that you don't sign your lease until after you get an EDA approval, or it will make you ineligible. So, once you get your EDA approval, then we would essentially reimburse you your lease 15% of those lease payments, and we do that for 2 years. So it's a check that would go back to the leasee. And it's a way to just kind of support these small business owners, so then that way they can put something back, maybe hire an additional employee, or maybe purchase a piece of equipment that they need. So it's just a way we can support people. We also have NJ Ignite, which I'm just going to touch briefly because the second half of this, you'll get more information about. But it's an incentive that's really geared towards co-working space, and it's also for the leasee, but also the landlord too. And it's really geared towards tech and life science companies. So anybody that's interested in that, then we generally pass them off to our tech and life science group. We also have our Premier Lender program, which was, one of our traditional lending products. So if anyone that's interested in maybe buying a new building, if you're leasing and now you want to purchase something, we can offer up to $2 million in a loan guarantee or participation. We typically partner up with a bank on this, and here's some of the banks that participate in this program. But it's a fairly fast approval, and it's low fees as well. So it's pretty attractive to small business owners, and we all have really good relationships with these premier lenders, so this can be done fairly fast. This is an example of one loan that we've processed. Shawnee Transportation is a trucking company that, we partner up with Connect One Bank for a $2 million, even though they were doing a $9.5 million loan, and this was all done through the Premier Lender program. They also were able to add 10 new jobs, and they retained 67 employees as well. One of our newer products is called the Access Loan. It's a pilot program that we have, and what it really does is it helps, again, for someone who's looking to purchase a building, and allows the bank to have more of a comfortable kind of factor. We look at, if a real estate will tend to look at a 30-year kind of window option, if that's going to work for you. We look at a term working capital, but mostly it's a perfect fit for fixed assets. And we can participate in a loan participation, or, there's different ways, but it really increases the flexibility that we can offer to any kind of applicant that's looking to maybe purchase a building. Direct loans are, again, up to $2 million for fixed assets. We can look at maybe potentially doing $750,000 for working capital. It's a low interest rate. It's fairly simple and fast approval as well. Small Business Fund is still going to be available for an entity that would essentially be in business for up to 1 year. We have a little bit more flexibility in this fund. It's lower fees. It's only a $300 application fee. You could potentially tap into up to $500,000 depending on what the use is. But again, fast approvals. It's pretty low fees as well too. We do still offer bond financing. You would have to typically be a manufacturing or a nonprofit company. So we are a conduit bond issuer, and we would help kind of navigate that process with you, but we could offer up to $10 million in tax-exempt bonding. An example of how we supported a company was we were able to come in with a direct loan of $900,000 for Edison Lithographing, who was purchasing new equipment, but because they're a printer as well, they're classified as a manufacturer, so we could issue a tax-exempt bond for $2.7 million as well. This is just our website, and feel free to reach out to our customer care line. Essentially, for anyone who has any kind of questions or one-off, our customer care line can essentially connect you to either the Small Business Services Group or Business Development, but it's free to call us and to ask questions, so I always encourage people just to reach out. Okay, thank you.
All right, we're going to take a quick second here for any questions you might have, anything at all. Christina's here because she wants to give you money. You're here because you want it. Anything? All right. By all means, feel free to write in questions as they come to you. Maybe if you're just taking a little while to write them in, that's great. After Tim's done, we'll come back for another Q&A, and by all means, Christina will still be here to answer anything you have. So in the meantime, Tim?
Yeah, hi. Thanks again for having us this morning. Appreciate the chance to be here. I'm Tim Rollender. I'm the EDA's sector lead supporting technology companies, specifically in the southern portion of New Jersey. I've got a colleague that actually supports the northern counties in the state as well, actually. But the programs are the same regardless of where they are. Forgive me, I'm fighting a little bit of a cold this morning, so bear with me. I'll take a little bit more time to talk through some of the programs EDA has stood up in the technology and bridging into the life science sectors as well. EDA's tech and life science practice has been around for about 15 years or so. Christina's group is kind of more recent addition. It's a great support group. So there's a little bit kind of more sort of programmatic meat on the bone here. Really, we serve the same function, just really targeting specific sectors these days. The more in-depth knowledge we can build, the sort of greater resource we find that we can serve for folks. EDA is built to support companies of all stages and sectors, from the very early stage tech and life science companies on up to the large multinationals, and we aim to have some kind of a resource for companies at every stop along the way. So the slide here really depicts within that early stage tech and life science bucket, look, we're here to help companies get started, get established, and grow. And so we'll talk through each of these respective programs to some degree here. Again, we'll touch on a couple that Christina mentioned as well, that there's some overlap, so that's good. The first opportunity for us to work with a company is with a recently announced initiative from Governor Murphy, is the Research with New Jersey database. New Jersey has probably some of the most world-renowned universities to call on. We're able to draw on those resources, and we want to be able to make those resources available to companies in the private sector. As we look out, my group sees between 200, 250 tech and life science companies a year. Most of those underneath the sort of $10 million in revenue size. Whenever we look back and we get to see, okay, how many of these companies, where did the tech come from? More often than not, it's actually from within academia. In an effort to really support the private sector, try and get some of those ideas out there, Research with New Jersey database was stood up as a free database that provides access to all of the assets within the 6 largest research universities in the state of New Jersey, which are listed at the bottom of the slide there. When I say all of the assets, that's all of the research, all the profiles of professors, all of the media, whatever intelligence that is being created inside the universities in New Jersey. It's available widely for entrepreneurs. I often look to an example. I met an entrepreneur that was devising a sleep apnea technology. wonderful engineer, had a great product, but needed to put some validation studies behind it. So they actually went onto the system, did a quick search for sleep apnea, and found out that there are professors within Rutgers and within Princeton University that are building out, their research on the sleep apnea space. That entrepreneur was able to reach out, be able to tap into some of the expertise within the student base, within the clinical trials that they needed to be able to kind of further their efforts there. Once a company is started, we look to say, okay, how can we further your efforts? More often than not, an early stage tech or life science company is operating virtually. Maybe it's a couple of founders that are working in the basement, working in a garage. So as Christina mentioned before, EDA stood up last year the NJEDA program, which provides entrepreneurs with free rent to work in an approved collaborative workspace in the state of New Jersey. Statistics show that companies working in a communal setting have a higher chance of success. That communal setting includes collaborative workspaces, co-working spaces, incubators, accelerators, and really this is our way of saying, okay, how do we support more collaborative workspaces in the state? How do we support more companies in those collaborative workspaces in the state? There's about 80 collaborative workspaces in the state of New Jersey today, and since we've launched NJEDA, we found out we're finding more and more of these workspaces all the time, which is great. But this is a way that through those 16 collaborative workspaces, EDA can actually provide a grant to support up to a year of free rent for a company. The left side of the slide depicts a 2, 4, or 6 month free rent. That comes through the fact that, in a simple example, the collaborative workspace will offer 1 month of free rent. The company will pay for 3 months of rent. The EDA will come in and provide an additional 2 months of rent. There are additional bonus months available for companies located in an opportunity zone that are located in a facility partnering with a university or are located in a newly opened facility. Again, it's just for tech or life science companies, but I think it goes a long way to really supporting companies at that very early stage. Excuse me, I took a sip of water there. As an example, the EDA owns a property in North Brunswick, New Jersey called the Bioscience Center. This is actually a research park the EDA purchased about 15 years ago at this point. As you can see on the slide, there are currently 8 buildings on the campus, one of which is actually our own incubator, where we provide access to space for approximately 27 early stage life science companies on the order of kind of 800 square feet to about 4,000 square feet. Companies are supported there for up to 5 years. We provide them with administrative support, utilities, the conveniences that one would hope are available in a collaborative workspace. The opportunity to network with colleagues, other companies, really kind of share best practices in some respect. Once a company meets those 5 years, it's their opportunity to go out in the world and locate on their own. That might be, anything from a 25,000 square foot facility, it might be a 100,000 square foot facility, it might be a 5,000 square foot facility, which we found a lot of companies actually need once they come out of that incubator stage. So actually last year, we created the Step Out Labs at North Brunswick, which is really kind of a successor to our incubator space. Beautiful space accommodating companies of 4,000 to 10,000 square feet, which doesn't have that 5-year limitation. But when a company exceeds the space requirements, again, there are other spaces on the campus, and we're always happy to provide a reference to other locations around the state. We've had great fortune working with companies to spin out from the campus. A few of the names down there at the bottom: Chromacell, Orthobond. You may be familiar with Amicus Therapeutics as well as another large name that spun out from the Bioscience Center. So once a company is determined, they're formed, now they're up, they're running, and they're operating. More often than not, the number one question I get is, can you help me raise capital here? I mentioned we see 200 to 250 companies a year, and all of them are looking for capital yesterday. EDA has been around for 60 years, and we're fortunate to have a great roster of colleagues angel investors, institutional investors that we can call on to work with and facilitate some warm introductions. To kind of help the process along and make it more productive for everybody involved, in 2014, we created the NJ Founders and Funders program, which is really set up like an afternoon speed dating session. We get to know the companies, we know the investors, and in advance of the event, we sit down and create kind of one-on-one schedules, providing 5 to 8 meetings for each of the companies. It's an opportunity, again, to make that warm introduction. You know, a company can take 2 or 3 minutes to talk about their business and save the balance of that 10-minute session for kind of getting to know the investor and let them get to know them, pick up tips and tricks on strategy and pitching. But really the point is to kind of walk away from the event with a business card. A few weeks later, pick up the phone and call the investor and say, hey, great, it was nice meeting you to talk about A and B. You know, love to get together and talk about how we can partner to achieve C here. You know, as you would expect, nobody walks away from the event with a check the day of, but we have some great stats. 90% of the companies have follow-on meetings thereafter, and 10% of the companies do raise capital following their participation at Founders and Funders. So, which is a great success rate at the early stage of the cycle. We do the event twice a year, spring and fall, and the next event is coming up November 13th. Registration is still open for this, but admission is free and offered on a first-come, first-served basis. So if anyone is interested, I'd encourage you to sign up right away, and we'll see if we can accommodate you. So once a company is formed, they're up and running, they've got some great investor introductions, we want to be able to help a company raise capital. And we have one of the most powerful tools in the angel investor tax credit. The program was created in 2013 to provide investors with a 10% return on their investment from the state of New Jersey in the form of a refundable tax credit. So basically, if a company invests in an eligible New Jersey technology or life science company, with the program requirements at the bottom of the slide there, they apply to the program and file a New Jersey tax return. They'll receive a 10% check or refund against their New Jersey tax liability for the following year. I mentioned the program's been around since 2013, and you can see we've handed out kind of $11 and $10 million. There's $25 million available in this program annually, and it's a great eye into the tech and life science scene for us, but the program has been undersubscribed. So earlier this year, effective July 1, the law was passed to increase the angel investor tax credit from 10% to 20% of an investor's investment in a company. That takes effect on January 1, 2020. If a company is located in an opportunity zone or is a certified woman or minority-owned business, that company is eligible for an extra 5% bonus to receive 25% of their investment back from the state of New Jersey. So we expect there's going to be a huge boost in reception of this program next year. Once a company is kind of operating for a while in the early stage space, you could expect they're going to incur losses. It's typical early stage companies, especially in the life science space, kind of operate at deep losses over long runs. New Jersey has a program that's been around since the mid-90s. It's a real feather in the cap for the state. To my knowledge, no other state has this program, and I'm waiting for somebody else to correct me on it. But the Technology Business Tax Certificate Transfer Program, or the NOL program for short, lets a company sell their net operating losses and R&D tax credits to a profitable company in exchange for cash to raise non-dilutive funding. Every year there's $60 million available. We have a great pool of, last year I think we had 54 applicants for it. The program was oversubscribed, so that's a great thing to happen. It's one of the few cases where it's great to lose money. You know, losses are tied up in a company. We want to be able to give that back to a company. You know, be able to pull those losses on your balance sheet are actually an asset for you. Let's see if we can work with you to pull those forward. The average award for a company is $1.1 million, and we've got a 90% approval rate. Our staff works really hard to work with the company in advance, be able to ensure that, look, this is the right fit for you. So if you think it is, let me know. I'm happy to work with you. There are programmatic requirements, of course. A company has to have a specific number of employees at the time of application, and they also have to have intellectual property in the form of a patent, a copyright, or an exclusive global license. So again, if you have any questions on it, please let me know. We'd love to work with you on it. So beyond the support programs that Christina alluded to and some of the incentive programs that I mentioned, the EDA does invest in companies directly and indirectly. The first instance we can do so, we can provide up to a $250,000 low-cost convertible note, matching your outside investor capital on a 1-to-2 basis. So if a tech company approaches me and they've raised $500,000, and they meet all the eligible requirements, EDA is able to step up for a low-cost convertible note. In the case of the COVEST program, it's a fixed 3% interest rate. And we're able to support that company. We provide them the capital. It's out there for 10 years. We give you the capital. We don't want to see a dime back for 7 years. Give you the capital and let you run your business. Starting at 7 years, if we haven't converted or you haven't paid us back and there's no prepayment penalty, then we start to receive principal and interest from the company. Again, there are programmatic requirements. A company has to have a patent or copyright. You have to have at least 50% of your employees operating in the state of New Jersey. But this program is designed for companies that are operating at those earliest stages. You only have to have 3 revenue-generating customers, commercial customers. They can be beta customers. They can be pilot customers. We'd love to work with you to see if there's a chance for us to step in and support you with the COVEST loan. Once a company exceeds the 5-year limit for the NJ COVEST program, then we're able to step up with the Edison Innovation Fund. That comes in the form of our angel growth loan and our venture capital growth fund. A company at this stage we would expect to see has kind of 250,000 in revenues, more typically between 500 and $1 million, and we're able to provide, again, between 250,000 and $1 million in follow-on funding. In the case of the venture growth fund, it's on a 1-to-1 matching basis, so those dollars can be a little bit more productive for you that you're raising from outside investors. Again, it's a low-cost convertible note, typically half the cost of a company would see in the private sector. For those very successful companies, we have our Growth Stars program that provides an additional $500,000 of follow-on funding. And just kind of to wrap it up, I mentioned we provide indirect funding as well to companies. EDA is a strategic investor in a handful of funds. In this case, it's kind of 16 funds, about $51 million deployed since 2000. And those names are up on the screen right now. Whenever EDA makes a commitment to a fund, we're expecting that manager to deploy on a best efforts basis $3 in the state of New Jersey for every dollar that we provide to the manager. It's our way of leveraging the resources of the private sector to kind of extend that capital, make sure there is capital available for New Jersey-based companies. More often than not, those managers are based in New Jersey, but some of them are regional as well. A lot of these managers and more are some of the names that you would expect to see participating in our NJ Founders and Funders program. So we work really very hard to establish a relationship with these managers, make sure they know what's going on in the state of New Jersey, and be able to kind of support their portfolios in as much as they support us. So I think that's kind of the focus for the programs for now. I think I usually get the comment that that's a lot. It's kind of like selling Ginsu knives. You kind of hear there's more. Now there's more. But if you have any questions, my contact information's on the page. If you are in the northern part of the state, my colleague Clark Smith would be your point of contact as well. But yeah, happy to take any questions on any of these programs.
Thanks, Tim. We actually have a few questions typed in already, but I want to give everyone else a moment to type in anything they have. While I'm doing that, I'd like to take a second to remind you about the Handouts tab. We get a lot of questions from people about how to download the slides. So just open up the tab marked Handouts in your GoToWebinar panel. The file is right there. It's called edawebinar.powerpoint. We don't try to name these things cryptically. You can also just wait until tomorrow and they'll be emailed to you tomorrow along with the video of the webinar. There's also the questions tab. If you have a question, type it in right there and I'll make sure our guests answer it. And don't be shy. You've got 2 experts here, so make sure to take advantage of them. I can't tell you how many times I read the post-webinar evaluations and see someone disappointed that a relevant topic wasn't covered, that the webinar wasn't broad enough, that it was too in the weeds. This is your opportunity to make the webinar your own and take it in whatever direction you'd like. So anyway, with all of that out of the way, let's jump right into our first question that comes from Carl, who would like to know, he'd like some help in selling to government organizations in the state of New Jersey.
Okay. It would be best just to reach out to me directly so I can give more information. We have a really good partner. The African American Chamber does a bonding readiness program too, which really helps someone who is looking for government contracts or looking to work with the government more. It's going to be a couple months. You have to show you're dedicated and really want to grow your business. But the whole process to it, people come out of the end with everything that they would possibly need in order to really expand their business and do more work with the government. So the best thing he could do is either email me or call me. My cell is 609-414-6829.
Rachel asks, what's the minimum I need to prepare before I come to you guys?
Sure, I'll take a stab at it first, and I think Christina will have a slightly different answer just because of the way our programs are structured. I mentioned we see 200, 250 businesses a year just in that early stage end of the spectrum. Half of them are kind of just an entrepreneur with an idea, so it's not even a formed company yet. Those are instances where we'll leverage a lot of our partners. Christina mentioned the UCEDC, the NJSBDC, and the Business Action Center, for example, and others that we can kind of, guide those companies to those resources, or those entrepreneurs to those resources. They can help them get the business structured, help them get any sort of basic requirements in place, business registration, etc., and then come back to us. And then again, we aim to have some kind of a resource for everyone. So it may not be every resource for a company, but there is something for a company.
So we're basically that sounding board for you, and I just kind of want to plug our little small business workshops as well, because that's the whole idea behind the workshops, is for people to come out to them. So what we do at these workshops is we bring 12 of our partners. Typically, it's the Small Business Development Center that's geographically specific to that city. It's the CDFIs, it's the lenders, it's any kind of technical assistance provider in that area. It's the Business Action Center, it's taxation, and they're there with their tables. They do a short little session where they explain what they can provide you, and then they also will be there to talk to you one-on-one. So I just want to kind of mention that we have a couple coming up in October. On October 9th, we're going to have Camden County, our workshop at the Governor James Florio Center for Public Service from 10 to noon. And then on October 23rd, we're going to have the Salem County Resource Workshop at the Salem Community College from 10 to noon. And then also on 10/28 in Phillipsburg, we're going to be presenting at St. Luke's Warren Campus Auditorium from 9 to 11. And then in Patterson on October 30th at the Hamilton Club from 10 to noon. And then in November on the 8th, we'll be in Passaic, again, offering a workshop, and that's going to be at their local city hall from 10 to noon. So for anyone who's looking for more information, if you have an idea, you want to learn about the resources that are available to you, feel free to come out to them just so you can talk to us one-on-one. And I feel like it's easier to just have that one-on-one connection as well.
Okay, we have one from Daniel, who asks, we are a technology company in New Jersey that has put our technology into smartwatches to enable medication adherence improvement, collect biometric data, glucose, weight, activity, pulse, etc., and support remote patient monitoring. We are about to launch with our partner Samsung, but have very little revenue to date. Where would you direct me?
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds awesome. Actually, I'd love to be able to start a conversation with you. My contact information is up on the slide, so I think the first best thing is please send me a note, and I'll actually see if I can get your contact info afterwards as well. Yeah, for a company of that stage, we would, number one, direct you to the NJ Founders and Funders event, again, coming up on November 13th, where we can hopefully provide some introductions to, or we will provide some introductions to investors for you. To give an example of some of the investors that attend, on the angel side, we've got groups like Delaware Crossing, the Jumpstart New Jersey, New York Angels. On the institutional side, we've got folks like Edison Partners and Osage. All of these folks are investing primarily in the earlier stage. So, you'll have a receptive audience basically that'll be interested in what you're doing. We can also specifically talk about the CoVest program I mentioned before, to see if there's a fit there, and see if even the angel investor tax credit would work for you. One of the interesting things, founders are able to take advantage of this program as well. So if you own less than 80% of your business, and you have invested in your own company, you can apply for the Angel Investor Tax Credit Program to receive 10% of your funding back, that you can reinvest back into the business. So there are avenues, and beyond some of those programs, happy to talk through others as well. That's very cool.
Okay, speaking of the Angel Investor Tax Credit, we have one from Heather who asks, do I have to live in New Jersey to take advantage of the Angel Investor Tax Credit?
That's the number one question we get every single time. No, an investor does not need to live in the state of New Jersey to take advantage of it. EDA exists to grow jobs in the state. We care that you are growing your jobs here. We don't care where dollars are coming from. Money can come from anywhere in the world. In fact, every year, 60% of the applications are actually Asian or European investors. So they don't live in this country even. Everybody goes through the same process. You file an application, and you file a New Jersey tax return. Speak with your tax professional about that specifically. And then at the end of the day, if you don't have any New Jersey tax liability, the state writes you a check basically as a refund.
Lauren asks, what kinds of businesses can qualify for NJ Ignites?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think Christina touched on this earlier on, and I kind of mentioned as well. NJ Ignite was created specifically for tech and life science companies. Those very, very early stage companies that might be operating virtually. Maybe there's an employee in New Jersey and there's another one in California. Or maybe there's a scenario where there are a few entrepreneurs in New Jersey, everybody's working out of their house, working out of their basement, whatever. It's really an opportunity to centralize those operations and come together in that collaborative workspace environment, basically. So tech and life science companies is the short answer.
Cool. Well, that's all the questions we have. So I think it's a good time as any to bring things to a close. Don't forget, all of you will be receiving a recording of today's webinar and the PowerPoint slides via email. Lastly, when you close out of the webinar, a survey will come up on your screen that we hope you'll fill out so we can understand how to best provide you important information in a webinar format. Our next webinar, Leave Law Summary, will take place October 3rd, so by all means, feel free to register for that one at our website, njbia.org. So until next time, for Christina Fuentes and Tim Rollender, this is Vinny Civitello thanking you for being with us this morning and wishing you a great day.